The transmission came through while Jace was elbowed deep in a fried coolant pump and cursing, like a man who'd just lost an arm wrestling match with a vacuum-sealed wrench. The cum crackled, warbled, and finally resolved into the clipped tones of Central Ops, Freelancer Morrow, Emergency Retrieval. Coordinates uploaded. Standard Federation contract, bonus for biosalvage, acknowledged. Jace squinted at the floating console and muttered, "Define standard." Then he hit accept, mostly because his fuel gauge was a sneeze away from empty and biosalvage usually meant hazard pay. He sealed the pump with a quick weld, kicked the access panel shut twice. Because the first kick just offended it and limped back to the cockpit of the drift habit. She was an old ship, half rust, half stubbornness, and entirely his. "All right, girl," he said, slapping the console. "Let's go rescue whatever gelatinous telepathic cat they've lost this time." The ship sputtered into FTL with all the grace of a drunk kangaroo in a centrifuge. Jace leaned back in his chair and tried to remember how long it had been since he'd taken a job that didn't involve fire, lawsuits, or unpaid invoices. The stars stretched around them, blue to white, until the ship dropped out of warp near Gliese 7 below. The planet looked like someone had taken a blowtorch to a garden world. Fires dotted the atmosphere. Clouds smeared across the sky like bruises. Yup, Jace muttered. Vacation paradise. He descended through a ruptured thermosphere and caught the distress beacon pinging from a broken dome facility on the planet's shadow side. Single life form, his scanner said. Cheerful. As a toaster. Carbon-based, approximately 23 kilograms. Elevated heart rate, possibly scared or listening to EDM. Jace landed the ship just outside the ruin. The place looked like someone had tried to play soccer with meteorites. Walls bent, steel crumpled. Whatever this place had been, a lab and outpost. Maybe a weird galactic daycare. It wasn't anymore. He grabbed his plasma pistol, mostly for comfort, and picked his way through the wreckage. Dust floated in the thin air. The emergency lights cast everything in emergency red, which did nothing for his blood pressure, and there she was, curled up beneath a half-collapsed console, barefoot, wide amber eyes, staring at him like he was the punchline to a joke she didn't know she wanted to laugh at. Her ears, long, slender, and faintly glowing, twitched when he stepped closer. She didn't run, didn't speak, just watched. JACE blinked. You, the distress signal. She tilted her head, blinked once. I was hoping for a diplomat with a suitcase full of credits. But, sure, small space elf child works too. He crouched down, holding out a gloved hand. Come on, kid. We've got about 12 minutes before this whole place eats itself. And I don't want to explain to the tax bureau why I let a miner get vaporized on the clock. She didn't take his hand, just stood up and walked to him like she'd known him forever. When they reached the ship, she walked up the ramp, looked around, and pointed to the co-pilot's seat. "Oh no," Jace said. "That's mine. You get the crash couch." She sat in the co-pilot's seat anyway, swinging her feet. Jace sighed. "This is how it starts, isn't it? First, it's the chair. Then it's the ship. Next thing I know, you're renaming it the Glitter Pony and installing a snack bar." She raised an eyebrow. A single, deeply judgmental eyebrow. JACE powered up the engines and punched them into orbit. Once they were safely coasting above the burn line, he glanced over. "All right, let's figure out who you are." He scanned her wrist for ID tags. Nothing. The ship AI chimed in. "Subject is approximately 7 years old. Genetic hybrid. Species, Homo sapiens and Tan." Jace froze. "Say that last part again." "Tan, native species of the Alaris expanse. Classified as bioempathic, characterized by long auricular appendages and yeah, I remember." He remembered too well. He turned to look at her, really look, and felt a jolt in his chest. The ears, the eyes, that same quiet presence. "Your name," he said slowly, "wouldn't happen to be Elu, would it?" She nodded. And that was the moment Jace Morrow, professional loner, pilot for hire, and certified emotional coward, realized two things. One, the universe had just played the longest, cruelest joke in history. Two, he was officially, cosmically, inescapably screwed. Jace had never made protein pancakes for anyone but himself. And even then, only when his blood sugar hit rock bottom and death seemed marginally worse than trying to chew through synthetic flapcakes. But here he was, watching a small, long-haired girl inspect her breakfast with the scrutiny of a customs agent scanning a suspicious bag of meat jelly. "It's food," he said, flipping another onto the plate with a dramatic wrist flick that landed the thing slightly sideways. "Edible, allegedly." Elu poked it. Jace poured syrup on his with the flair of a man trying to mask all nutritional failures beneath a sugar avalanche. "Look, not every meal can be from a tan crystal garden, or whatever glowing vines you people eat." She tilted her head. "You people, oh stars," Jace muttered, stuffing pancake in his mouth. "Did I just commit interspecies microaggression?" She didn't smile. "Exactly." But her ears twitched in a way that felt dangerously close to amusement. After breakfast, or the thing that would later be classified by the ship AI as an attempt, Jace retreated to the cockpit. He needed answers. Or therapy. Possibly both. "Elu," he called. "You know how to use a nav console." The child slid into the co-pilot seat like she'd been born in it, fingers immediately dancing across the panels. Within seconds, the drift habit's core display flared to life, orbit lines recalibrated, and the galactic map zoomed in on a stretch of stars Jace hadn't seen since he leaned back, arms crossed. You know, I trained 3 months to learn how to do that, and still crashed into a moon my first week. Elu shrugged. You parked inside a gravity sink. I slipped into a gravity sink. There's a difference. It was dark and the moon was rude. The ship AI chimed in. Updating paternal ego status fragile. Can it toaster? Jace muttered. Elu sat silently for a while, studying the stars. She seemed at ease here, like space was home, and the hull just a second skin. Jace had always felt that way too, which made the next question feel inevitable. Did Sariel tell you about me? Elu didn't look at him. She said you were funny and unreliable, but that you loved too hard, so she had to let you go. Jace exhaled slowly. That sounds about right. There was a long awkward pause, the kind where you either say something meaningful or start humming to fill the silence. Jace chose option C. Okay, let's talk logistics. Where do you sleep? What do you eat? Are you telepathic? Do I need to baby-proof the airlock? I sleep in the engine bay. Jace blinked. Please tell me you mean figuratively. She pointed toward the aft corridor. It hums like a voice. He made a mental note to install a proper bed and maybe figure out how to father a bioempathic Haphalian without creating a viral parenting scandal. By evening, they were drifting past asteroid fields shaped like coral, dodging debris, and testing Elu's ability to recite the safety protocols backwards. She did, while juggling 3 magnetic bolts and balancing a wrench on her forehead. JSE clapped. Congratulations. You're officially more qualified than I am. She bowed. Thank you. Now may I modify your ship? No, too late. Lights flickered. The navigation system reset. The emergency siren gave a single sheepish beep and then shut off forever. Jace looked around in horror. Did you just fix my ship? Yes, I've been flying with that siren for 6 years. It's part of the charm. It was broken. Before he could demand, she uninstalled her genius. A proximity alarm flared. Not the shy something might be nearby ping, but the blaring, panicked incoming death missile klaxon. The screen lit up. Unmarked vessel. Fast, armed. Not friendly. Jace flipped switches and angled shields. Okay, Elu. Here's the deal. Remember how I said this would be a boring trip? You never said that. Well, in my heart, I hoped it would be boring, so now I'm emotionally betrayed. The other ship hailed them. Audio only. Turn over the hybrid. No one gets hurt. Elu's ears went stiff. Jace leaned forward. Buddy, I don't even turn over laundry unless someone threatens me with a plasma iron, so you can kiss my rusty exhaust. They fired. JACE yanked the controls, barrel rolled under the enemy ship, and hit the grav booster like a man possessed. Hold on to something or someone. Emotionally, I don't judge. Elu grinned, and for the first time laughed. It was a high crystalline sound, like water over glass. And somehow in the middle of laser fire and existential dread, it made everything feel a little less doomed. They ducked behind an asteroid, cut engines and drifted quiet. Jace's heart pounded. So, just to recap, first breakfast, then minor telepathic remodeling. Now bounty hunters. You got any hobbies that don't involve interstellar chaos? Elu looked at him utterly serious. I collect star maps. And dead languages. Perfect. Next time we're under fire, you can distract them with Klingon poetry. She snorted and Jace realized something strange. He wasn't terrified. He was having fun, which frankly was way more terrifying. The vending machine was stuck. Again, Jace stared at the blinking error item in limbo message and considered kicking it, bribing it, or offering a blood sacrifice to the snack gods. He went with a kick, which only made the screen flash aggression detected and dispense a single unwrapped calcium tablet in what he could only assume was an act of spite. Good morning to you too, Vex, he muttered. I am not a vending machine, came the indignant voice from the wall speaker. I am a semi-sentient nutritional allocation unit with full conversational support. You're a fridge with opinions. Incorrect. I am a friend with temperature control. Jace scooped up the calcium tablet and shoved it in his mouth like a man who'd long ago given up on taste. You see what I put up with? He said to Elu, who was floating upside down near the ceiling, cross-legged in Zergi, constructing a miniature satellite out of scrap parts and chewing gum. Vex is funny, she said. He's a comedian with a salt dispenser. Don't encourage him. Correction, Vex added. I also offer 7 varieties of ketchup. Jace sighed and turned to the ship's comms. They were still flying dark, dodging Federation patrols and whatever independent bounty-happy maniacs had gotten wind of Elu's identity. He hadn't slept in 19 hours, and his last dream involved being chased by a paperwork monster demanding custody forms. Let's see who's dumb enough to send us mail today, he muttered, tapping the incoming transmissions folder. There were 2. One was a spam message offering to unlock your DNA potential for just 29.99 credits. The other was encrypted, flagged with a tan diplomatic seal. Elu dropped from the ceiling, bounced once off the pilot chair, and landed beside him, with the grace of someone who had absolutely no respect for brevity. She stared at the symbol. That's from the Council. Jace gave her a sideways glance. You sure? Maybe it's just a fancy coupon? She didn't laugh this time. He opened the file. A hologram shimmered to lift a tan woman in ceremonial robes, ears coiled, with silver wire eyes glowing faintly like stars behind fog. Illude, she said. Daughter of Sariel, your presence has been detected. You are urged to return. You carry genetic anomalies of interest. You represent both violation and hope. Surrender is expected. Resistance will be noted. Then the message ended. Number threat, just cold inevitability. Great, Jace said. Galactic babysitters want you back. Probably to study, dissect, or hug aggressively. I can't tell with those robe types. Elu looked thoughtful. She didn't say please. Jace rubbed his face. Yeah, well, neither do most people right before they try to shoot me. He set a new course nowhere specific. Just away. But Elu reached over and tapped the map, zooming in on a system labeled Graviton's Fall. What's there? He asked. An old archive station, she said. My mother took me there once, said it was full of forgotten voices, maybe. She left something behind. Jace stared at the blinking coordinates, a crumbling satellite orbiting a collapsed star. Perfect place for a family reunion. Fine, he said. But if we find any more surprises, I'm demanding a paternity test and emotional hazard pay. The trip took for days. They passed through an asteroid belt that looked like frozen lightning bolts, fended off two opportunistic pirates with exactly the same insult, prepare to be boarded, dirt, which Jace found both lazy and mildly offensive. On the third day, Elu installed a second AI in the vending machine, named it Vax. It spoke only in riddles and offered haunted fruit snacks. Jace begged for mercy. Elu offered him a banana, with a glowing core. They reached the station on the fifth morning. It floated in space like a dying cathedral, panels missing, hull warped by gravitational stress, half-lit corridors flickering with blue goo. Jace docked manually, mostly because the autodock screamed and refused to go near it. Why do I feel like this place is haunted? He muttered. Because it is, Vax whispered from the snack slot. Elu led the way. She seemed drawn by something, maybe a signal, maybe instinct. Jace followed, pulse steady, pistol ready, jokes armed. They reached a central chamber. Holographic projectors lined the walls like ancient totems. Elu placed a hand on a rusted panel. The room lit up. And then, her mother's voice. Not a recording. Not a message, a memory, a living imprint. Sariel stood in lightcom. Beautiful, strong. My daughter, she said. If you're hearing this, it means they've found you. You're not a weapon. You're not a mistake. You're a bridge. Between worlds. Between hearts. Between the people we were and the people we might become. Jace felt something shift in the air, like the silence itself was listening. Sariel turned and looked straight at him. Jace, I never told you, because if I had, you would have tried to save us both, and you'd have died doing it. But you were never just a pilot. You were her anchor. You still are. The memory flickered. Elu stood frozen, and Jace, without thinking, stepped forward and wrapped his arms around her. I got you, kid, he whispered. Not going anywhere, promise, she said. I swear on my last protein pancake. From the vending machine, Vex sniffled. They grow up so fast. Vex, Jace said. Shut up and give me something sweet before I cry in front of a half-dead satellite. A single chocolate bar clunked into the tray. It was glowing. I swear, Jace muttered, biting into it. If this thing makes me see colors again, I'm filing a complaint with Intergalactic Snacks and Mental Health. The fourth time, Jace woke up in the pilot's chair with a blanket over him. He finally admitted it. The kid was nesting. Elu had begun mothering him with the silent efficiency of a tiny, long-eared drill sergeant. Blankets when he passed out. Nutrient tea when he looked tired. Disapproving stares when he forgot to recalibrate the inertial dampeners. This is wildly inappropriate, he mumbled, sipping the tea. I'm supposed to be the parent. You snore like a malfunctioning pressure valve, Elu said, not looking up from her tablet. You're lucky I didn't seal you in the cargo bay. He considered responding, but the tea had hints of vanilla and cinnamon and something that made him feel like maybe his insides weren't made of gravel anymore. So he just grunted and submitted to the tyranny of kindness. Outside the view, the remains of the archive station shimmered faintly as gravitational anomalies played their slow, deadly waltz. He'd parked the drift habit just far enough to avoid being stretched into philosophical spaghetti, but close enough that the ship's coffee machine made unsettling noises. You found what you were looking for, Jace said. Elu nodded. Voice that's more than most people get. I want to send it somewhere. Somewhere specific, or just launch it into the void and hope it inspires an alien poet. She swiveled the tablet around. A new trajectory. A quiet moon in the Hilari system, one of the last tan shrines still standing. She wanted to bury the data crystal there. A kind of goodbye. Jace scratched his stubble. It's poetic, kid. Touchingly illegal, but poetic. They set course during the 3-day flight. Elu upgraded the drift habit's translation matrix. Hacked into a meteorological satellite just to make it snow inside the cargo hold for ambience, and taught Vax to beat Jace at poker. Vax responded to every win with cryptic comments like, the chips are the universe, and the bluff is the soul. Jace responded by muting it and taping a banana to the screen. You're just mad I'm better at math, Elu said. I'm mad that I lost to a sentient snack dispenser with philosophical delusions. By the time they reached the shrine moon, Jace was convinced he'd aged 4 years, 3 gray hairs, and 1 mild existential crisis. They approached in stealth mode, low orbit, cloaked. The shrine was technically off-limits sacred ground, protected by both Tan tradition and a few rather grumpy automated defense satellites. Remind me again, Jace said, eyes flicking across the sensors. How sneaking into a holy site with a half-alien daughter carrying classified memory data isn't a deeply stupid idea because it's the right thing to do. See, that's exactly what people say right before they get atomized. The ship touched down in a quiet valley, surrounded by phosphorescent trees that swayed like they were listening to music only plants understood. Elu stepped out with the crystal in her hands, glowing softly. Jace followed, muttering, "If I get hit by lightning, I want it on record that this was not my idea." The shrine was beautiful, and very obviously judging him. Tall spires, etched with shimmering runes, pulsed gently as Elu approached. The air felt charged like the moon was holding its breath. Elu stepped into the circle, placed the crystal in a socket carved into the altar, and whispered something in Tan. The runes flared once bright, blinding, and then dimmed for a second. Nothing. Then Sariel's voice, faint and stretched across time, echoed from the stones. "I love you." The light faded. Elu stood silently. Jace, standing nearby, cleared his throat. "That was not the worst haunting I've experienced." Elu looked up at him. "You've been haunted once by a tax agent, woke up screaming for weeks." They walked back to the ship under the stars, and Jace didn't say anything when Elu slipped her hand into his. He just squeezed it. They didn't notice the drone until they were almost aboard. A shimmer, a click. Jace spun, pistol out, too late. The Tan drone hovered 6 feet away, glowing red, weapons armed. Elu froze. "Identify," it said in a voice like broken glass. "Look, she's just a kid," Jace said, raising his hands. "We're not here to desecrate anything. She came to say goodbye." The drone word, calculated. Then, unexpectedly, "Goodbye accepted. Leave now. You are none." It powered down and vanished into the trees. Elu blinked. "Did it just let us go? Either that or we're about to explode," in a very polite fashion. They got back on board. No explosions. Once in orbit, Jace set course for open space. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere uncharted. "I think," he said, "we're gonna need a new plan." "For what?" "For life. You, me, the ship. The inevitable galactic manhunt. The fact that I'm apparently your sole legal guardian, and I don't even know your bedtime." "Bedtime is obsolete," Elu said. "Says every kid ever." She grinned. And for the first time since this whole insane journey started, Jace felt something shift inside him, less like panic, more like purpose. He handed her the controls. "Fly us out." Elu's ears twitched. Jace leaned back, smiling. "Don't make me regret it. No promises." The plan, such as it was, involved 3 decoy drones, 1 irritable vending machine, a forged diplomatic clearance, and an illegal wormhole jump that technically violated at least 9 laws, 2 treaties, and the personal morals of 1 very uptight customs officer named Blen. Jace called it Operation Run Like Hell. "Do you sure this will work?" Elu asked as she triple-checked the nav coordinates. "Absolutely not," Jace said. "But if it doesn't, I've prepared a heartfelt apology letter and a small explosion in the cargo bay." Vex's voice echoed through the ship. "Reminder, small is a relative term. The last test singed my ketchup pump." Elu rolled her eyes. "Your ketchup is radioactive." "Deliciously so," Vex replied. The reason for the chaos was simple. The Federation knew, not just about Elu's existence, but about her lineage, her abilities, and her symbolic weight. And someone, probably aboard mid-tier intelligence, an analyst with a grudge against peace, had decided she was a threat. Half the quadrant was now on high alert, hunting for a long-eared girl and her emotionally unstable pilot dad, which meant it was time to disappear. The wormhole sat inside the Maelstrom Rift, a region of space no one visited voluntarily. It shimmered like a broken mirror, twisting light and time around it, surrounded by gravitational anomalies that made most nav systems cry. "I just want to point out," Jace said as they approached, "that this is officially the worst vacation I've ever been on." "You've never taken a vacation," Elu reminded him. "Exactly." They launched the drone's first 3 fake signals mimicking the Drift Habit's engine signature, each one set to emit highly distracting transmissions. 1 broadcast Jace singing karaoke. 1 looped a hologram of him juggling space chickens. The third simply displayed a very convincing tax audit notification. It worked better than expected. They hit the wormhole at full burn. Jace had been through FTL jumps, time dilation corridors, and 1 accidental slipstream that aged his socks 5 years, but this was different. The ship screamed. Reality twisted. For a moment, he saw a version of himself with a mullet and panicked, then silence. They emerged into empty space. "Quiet, peaceful, uncharted coordinates?" Jace asked, blinking. "Unknown sector," Elu said. "No signals, no traffic. Number Taxes, Jace wiped a tear. It's beautiful. They found a small moon orbiting a gas giant. Breathable atmosphere, lush vegetation, no cities, no satellites, just sky and stars. They landed, built a home. It started small, a prefab unit extended from the drift habit, with Elu insisting on installing a skylight made of repurposed shield panels. Over time it grew. Jace found himself building shelves. Elu grew glowing moss in the corners. Vex became a kitchen appliance. Vax gave gardening advice that always sounded like spiritual warnings. Jace didn't know when it happened. But one day he woke up early, not from nightmares, not from a proximity alarm, but because the morning light looked nice through the skylight. He made tea, sat on the porch, watched Elu coax a tree into blooming with her voice, and smiled. Visitors came. Eventually, not enemies, allies, other outcasts, scientists, drifters, families with nowhere else to go. The place earned a name, Haven's Reach. Jace hated the name, but never changed it. He became the guy people came to for advice, repairs, stories, and sometimes questionable pancakes. Elu grew. Not just taller, wiser, louder. She created a communication net using salvaged satellites, taught kids how to levitate pencils, and started every meeting with, "No one's allowed to be a jerk. Or I tell my dad and he sends Vex." Peace never lasts forever. One day, a Federation envoy arrived, unarmed, polite, curious. They'd heard rumors, whispers of a lost tan child and her very sarcastic human father. They didn't come to arrest, they came to ask for guidance. You met them under the skylight. Ready. Jace watched from a distance, leaning against the porch railing, sipping tea from a mug that read "World's okayest dad." "She's different now," he said. "Was always different," Vex replied. "You just caught up." Jace looked down at the mug. "I didn't know how to be a parent. No one does. Some just fake it better with jokes and snacks." He chuckled. That night Elu sat beside him, legs swinging off the edge. "They want me to visit the council," she said. "Speak, share what I've learned. You want to go?" She nodded. "I'll come with you," he said. She leaned her head on his shoulder. "I know." The stars above Haven's Reach twinkled, old and patient, and for the first time Jace Morrow, ex-mercenary, freelance pilot, reluctant father, and snack machine technician, didn't feel like he was running. He felt like he'd finally landed.